Okay, Saberites, let's have a look at the KR Kestis SHOTO expansion pack. Now, different to the other expansion packs where you don't actually need the main hilt to have this set up. So unlike the crossguard kit where you need the main Kestis to build it, unlike the Fallen Order which is just a grip, you need the main Kestis to complete the set. This is its standalone hilt lightsaber. So, wonderful box by Christian Cruz, representing the panels of the Mantis. And look at that, he captures everything so wonderfully. I'm a massive fan of this box design for all the Kestis runs. It's so good. Alright, lift that off. Foam. And what do we have inside? We have baggies. Is that it? Yep. Cool. Put those to the side. We have an adapter. Awesome. And then we have the main hilt itself, which is quite tightly in there. There we go. Alright. Let's unwrap it. And then move the tissue and the box out of the way. Oh, it's lovely. And that smell. Yeah. Is that just me? Anybody else get that? When you've got something that's been freshly manufactured, packaged up in tissue paper in these foam boxes, they just, the smell. I love the smell of fresh lightsaber in the morning. So, here we have it. A full hilt in itself. So, this represents the small lightsaber that Cal Kestis uses in the Survivor game. This one was a difficult one to pull off. It really was not easy to make sure it's especially installable, and for different options as well. Obviously, emitter side of things, dead easy. It's the same as the standard Kestis, but this tiny little area here, you can see I put my hand around it and I've almost covered it all. And then to have two plungers without them intruding on the internal diameter too much, because obviously you don't want that as well. It was a tough one to pull off altogether. However, we're going to break this down, go through what you should be looking out for. So you've got the main hilt, you've got the adapter for the quick detach mechanism that will plug into the back end of the main Kestis if you've set it up for the quick detach mechanism to work. And you've got the emitter greeblies. Should have two of those. You have got, let's see, you should have 6 per size. You have 12 of these tiny little copper nubbins. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I've got 12 of those. Have I got 12 of those? 3, 6, 9, 12. Yes. Cool, got those. Those are something you can choose to not bother putting in or put in. It's up to you. They're there on the game. And the best thing to do is glue them in, but only glue them in once you are happy with your install, happy with your weathering, then put them in obviously. If you're going to get this weathered, putting these in first, you're going to really struggle to get them back out. And then you've got 2 Allen keys. You should have a 1.27mm and a 1.5mm Allen key. So when you get the SHOTO, you might find one of your emitter fins is a little bit wobbly, which is fine. It is normal. This factory does not do up anything tight, and we don't want them to. So what I do, first things first, as soon as you get this, unscrew the blade retention screw like so, remove your blade plug, then start unscrewing, just like previous generations, unscrewing this top lip very gently. And this is the fiddliest process of it all, but don't bend it. It's a very small, like threaded plate. Don't bend it, just unscrew it very gently. And you're doing it a minute bit at a time, but once you've done this once, you should be absolutely fine. It's getting there, it's getting there, it's getting there. There we go. And then you can pull off the emitter fins. And there we go. So one of them's left a little bit of mark from where the screw has been protruding out because they haven't done them up super tight yet. But that's not a problem because you've still got massive amounts of surface area to make good contact with. So, just making sure everything's alright. Usual clocking mechanism for the emitter as well, of which is quite key to making sure your install process goes nicely. Get it clocked, get it low down, and do the install process whilst you've got the emitter fins off as well, because you need to have access to your grub screws, but you also might need to tune the height of your emitter to make sure the engagement between the pins of the fixed part of the install to the moving part of the install, they make a good connection. That's what you want. Remove your body, stick it to the side, and then we're just left with this piece here. And the usual method, as I said, for clocking the emitter, I like this plunger better than this plunger. You can see there's a visual difference. I don't know why I feel like this one looks better for some reason, couldn't tell you why. So I want this to be my primary side, so my primary side doesn't have the blade retention screw on it. That's just me, you set up however you like. Okay, now if you wanted to, I'll come back to that, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Right, so let's just tighten these down. You don't have to go too crazy. The emitter fins are steel, but these are tiny screws. So you notice I'm not wrenching them, I'm not using the short side down, I'm just using the top side. Go as far as I can just to nip them up nicely. Make sure they're all good there and there. Alright. So one of those screws definitely needed a bit of tightening. And then you can check it again by putting your emitter sleeve down the emitter into place and then getting a feel. Oh, yeah, it's a bit tighter. Oh, yeah. Cool. Very tight. And that's what we want, and then there's no wrestle. If you still find you put these down and you have a little bit of play, you can take this, put a tiny bit of Captain tape, like it's not, or any tape that's super thin, it's not going to cost you, you know, a penny to do, and then that would help reduce any wobble back and forth rather than being, you know, back and forth in that way rather than being that way. All right. Cool. There we go, nice and easy. That is done. So as you can see here, because it's the same as the standard Kestis emitter, you've got 2 grub screws per side. Now traditionally on the standard Kestis, the lower grub screw would hold on to the fixed part of the chassis that sits down here, and then the upper grub screw would hold on to the emitter PCB holder that sits right up here, and making your install process super easy, not having to compress wires or anything like that, so you can do it all outside of the hilt and then shove it in after, which is exactly what we want. We want an easy install process. Now here comes the funny part, and I'm forewarning you, the springs that I had to spec for these plungers are tiny. Do not take this apart on your bed. Take it apart in a closed space where you control where they fly to. It's going to be frustrating. It is. And I recommend before you take this apart, you have a little bit of grease. You guys have probably seen this little pot, me use it before, you know, it's always on hand. And that will also help hold your springs in the pockets whilst you put the assembly together. So, oh, don't drop it. Right, let's start off with the emitter. So now you can see that this is different to the standard Kestis emitter PCB holder, which is like this. This one is longer, doesn't need to be 2 parts. This is all that's going to stay static in your emitter, and then you're going to have a little sleeve that has no wiring, no function other than just being a good bit of plastic to click into. That's going to sit in your body, and then the rest of your install is completely separate and dead easy. Right, so put this down the emitter hole, making sure that the grub screws are retracted, which I know they are, I can see them. If there might be a little bit of machine flashing down the inside from where it's been drilled through and tapped through, don't worry about that. It's just extra stuff to add friction to how it holds onto your emitter PCB holder. So we've got that all the way down. Use, and make sure I don't lose that grub screw for the blade retention. Put it in there. And you're just going to tighten these down. The orientation of this emitter PCB holder does not matter. Just tighten those down till you feel them compress against the PCB holder. The print, you're only like retaining print, so do not screw these down super tight. You might split your print. There you go. Last one. And there we have it. Cool. Now you're wondering, how do I get this down here? It definitely does not fit. And you'll be asking the right question. What you do is there's 3 grub screws on the inside of this bush. And if you know my work, I like hiding grub screws in weird places because it makes the process nicer visually, but the one-off setup can be a little bit more tricky. It's not actually that tricky. So those 3 grub screws, all you're going to do is grab your 1.27mm Allen key and undo them a little bit, like so. As I said, this is a bit fiddly. There we go, I can feel the bush loosening up. And one thing you want to do, you do not want to pull the bush straight out as soon as you've got this loose. Alright, you want to do it over a controlled surface, because as soon as you do this, you could be losing springs and your plungers. So what I do is I put one of the plungers down. Oh, almost lost it. There we go. Put it down, finger down, pull the bush out, and then release the bottom one very gently. See, I covered that. Oh, look at that, spring stayed in place. And try and do the same for this side as well. And they stayed in place. Wow, that went smoother than I thought it did. It would. So yeah, feeling quite proud about that. Now this bush here, you might be looking at it and going, well, how do you get those grub screws in and out? So if you for any reason were going to weather this, once you get the grub screws out of the way, you've got these guidance holes through the other side to get direct easy access to the grub screws, as you can see here with your Allen key. To turn them to the right point, that allows you to slide this in and then nip them up after. Okay, cool. Put that to the side. Now, here we go. What am I doing? Grabbing this, grabbing the bush, and you are going to slide it in so the closed side is towards your emitter. Slide that in, making sure these slits are in line with these. Okay, just like that. And here's going to be a tricky part. I'm going to grab this, slide it down, make sure this goes down all the way and there's no issues there, which we can see there's no issues, it goes all the way down. And the reason you've got 3 different positions of grub screw is so you can make sure that none of them align with the dark slots that are there visually in the game. So you can just make sure that none of them align with those slots. You want them to compress into the outer body, which is cool. Also note, there are 3 longer slots up here. If you want to design your own chassis and you decide you want the speaker to be up in the body rather than down at the pommel, you can do just that. Right, so realign everything, make sure your slots are okay, just like so, and then pull that out just a smidge. Now, this is where the plungers and the springs might drop out on you. Let's see. Oh wow, okay. Springs have stayed in the plunger for now. Make sure you've left enough space and your slots are all good. put them in. Make sure you, and be gentle, they're tiny springs. Compress it, and then once the bush is in, you might notice that that's not going anywhere now, and that holds the plunger mechanism together. What I'm going to do is I'll also leave you a link to be able to buy the springs. If you lose them, if you damage them, then you can buy some replacements. Dead easy, they're an off-the-shelf item. And then we're going to do the other side. Now you're wondering, why did I get the grease out? And yeah, rightly so. I get the grease out in case the springs pop out of the plunger and you can find them. Grab a little bit of grease on the edge of your Allen key, put it in the pocket of the plunger, then put your spring in there. You only need the tiniest amount of grease and it will help hold it in position in the plunger. Alright, cool. I'm hoping we don't need it for this side too, which will be unbelievable, but all requires a gentle hand. Look at that! Wow. I haven't had that before. Let it sit, compress it, and as you compress it, slide it up and put the bush down, and you can see that this side is now compressed. Holding your bush down, making sure your hole alignment isn't visible with the slots, and then you can start tightening down the Allen keys, the grub screws on the inside. Also, this is a nice method of being able to clock your grip and your body without any external visible grub screws, making this the neatest SHOTO ever. Oh, I think this is one I retracted a little bit too far. Nope, there we go, got a bit of compression. Feel it, don't have to go too crazy. You can see here, I'm just putting the weight of the thumb on it. And final grub screw here. Just like that. Okay, cool. And if you wanted to change how this grip orientates to the body for any reason, you can undo those grub screws, rotate it whatever way you need it to. And so, there we have it. The fixed bush, fixed sleeve is up there now. We're going to test the twist and click mechanism. One thing to note, do not put your fingers on the plungers as you do this, because if you've got these compressed, you're going to turn this and you're going to rip your switch off. No matter what switch it is, you're always going to do it. So fingers away, twist, click, got a nice click there. Make sure you can do the grip all the way up and it should sit perfectly with the chassis. Nice, cool, I'm happy with that. Really happy with that. Now we're going to make sure the connection's good between all of it. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to explain the batteries for the chassis. So we have an EcoCC, which is a tiny little crystal chamber, which takes an 18350 on the smaller batteries on the market. And then, unfortunately, because of the size and always wanting the install to be easy peasy for you, this Eco version without the crystal chamber takes an 18500, not an 18650. These ones though still hold a lot of charge and have good draw. So do that one now. Click the kill switch.
On Cal, and this is BD1.
I'm going to slide that in like so. Push the power button, and we've got a good connection. Look at that. And then test the aux. Lovely, that's what we like. And then flick it off. How cool is that? And let's just have a look at the EcoCC. Tiny little battery. Shove it in.
We ran into some trouble on our last job.
Here we go. Shove that in. Now with the EcoCC going, there's not much to grip onto other than the fragile chamber. What I recommend is just gripping onto these bits either side of your board up here. Push it in, twist without pushing your fingers on the plungers whilst you're twisting, and then push the power button. Pull those out. There we go. Cool. Alright, very happy with that. Now we can start the reassembly process, which is drop your emitter sleeve back down. making sure the slots line up nicely, and then getting your emitter fins down like so. Oh, that's a good slide. Yes, solid as a rock. Right, and then fiddly process using gravity. Find the threads, don't force it. If you force it, you might bend it. So it's tiny threads on a very thin piece of addy. But you don't have to do this uptight. I recommend you do not do this uptight. I recommend you just do it until you feel a bit of resistance and then stop. So you can always guarantee it's easy to remove if you need to, and it's not going to come flying off on you. La di da di da di da. There we go. I met some resistance. Very good. Blade retention screw. Get that back in. And then we'll get the blade plug back in as well, because that looks really cool. Awesome. And also here,
I'm Cal, and this is PD1.
shove that in, get the grip on. For a 22mm speaker, that's pretty loud, and it's got discrete sound venting on it as well. And like the Kestis, because I've got those slits up there for if you wanted to have a speaker up in the body section for whatever reason, for a custom chassis, because that's there, the airflow feels great. So like with the Kestis, we have the same thing in the main body. It's got the holes up there for sound venting, but when you've turned it on, even the speakers down here, you can feel like airflow around here. It's awesome, and like a vibration, it feels really good in the hand. It feels what I think a lightsaber would feel like, and I'm sure it just wouldn't feel like a static prop. It would feel like it has a bit of oomph to it in the body, not just in the pommel. Cool. As I said, you've got to carefully glue these in. Be careful. You've only got 12. Don't mess it up. Now my method for doing those is to cut myself off a bit of good old classic electrical tape. Try not to let it stick to your fingers. Grab the rounded end, there's a flat end and a rounded end. Grab the rounded end, stick it on the electrical tape, grab your super glue, put the tiniest dab on the back end of it, and then carefully slot it into the hole without pressing a button whilst it's on, and let it sit and rest and set. Okay? I'll leave that there. So that's that. These greeblies, obviously do not stick these in if you're going to get it weathered by somebody. Wait and let them do it once they finish their weathering process. You just need a bit of double-sided sticky tape. As usual, the 3M stuff, dirt cheap, you can find it on the internet. I don't recommend gluing them in. If you ever want to lift them, 3M tape, you can still lift them. There are some pilot holes in here that if you want to enlarge you can, with a tiny little drill bit, but the holes there should be substantial enough for you to be able to glue in some tiny wires and make it look exactly like the game. Cool. Now let's walk through this pommel adapter, quick detach adapter. So let's unscrew the pommel that comes attached to the grip. You'll note that there is only a single screw here holding on the pommel onto the threaded part. So you can choose how you clock this as well. If you unscrew that, you can change the orientation of the whole bottom bit here to be whatever position you want for the loop. Now I've put that to the side. We've got this bit here, and all you do is thread that on, and you've now got the ability excuse me, frog in the throat. You've now got the ability to quick detach to your standard Kestis.
Green.
Okay. And pull that back, slide down, and then it's good to go. And remember, if you watch the standard Kestis, this is tunable, and we will be walking through the threaded adapter now that comes with the standard Kestis. So if you're not wanting to use the quick detach mechanism and want to have a complete staff and don't want the risk of anything popping out, it being detachable or anything like that, you can still add a thread to it. Unscrew this, put it on its side so we don't get more colour changes. This is the threaded adapter that comes with the standard Kestis hilt, and the idea of it is that you can then take this part, if you can get it out of the baggie, and replace the nipple with this part here. And the way this works is you grab an Allen key, the right size preferably, yep. Undo the 2 grub screws down here that are in the threads, hope you can see that. Just like that, and then you should be able to gently unscrew the steel quick detach nipple and put the threaded adapter in. And now remember, all you're doing is putting a light bit of pressure on these grub screws. You're not going crazy. If you go crazy, you could risk damaging your threads. So just a little nip like that, and that makes sure that whenever you tighten it up, you're not unscrewing the wrong thing. Okay, so that's on like that. And of course, I've walked you through this on the standard Kestis, but stay. Okay. To make this a fixed pommel, hold down your cage with your finger, unscrew the back end, which is the main thread to attach to the hilt, like so. It's a long thread because it's nice and secure. Perfect. And what I tend to do is also remove a spring. Just keep one. I keep the inner one for this because you don't need the springs for the fixed to make this fixed at all, but it adds a bit of retention to make sure it doesn't bounce around. And then if you're clever, put this somewhere safe, all the balls and the cage, tip them out. You can compress this down. You can see now I've got an open thread down there, which is exactly what we want for the threaded adapter. Like so. It's a long thread. And then you've got flats on the other side as well if you want to grab a screwdriver, tighten it up more. And you can thread this onto here, and then you can thread this onto your main Kestis, so then it's completely a static prop. And of course you can clock everything through the sleeves that I've been guiding you through anyway, and this you can rotate to be whatever you want it to be. And if I were you, what I'd do, rather than go back into there, I would peel these off because it's only you're only going to use 3M tape, not super glue, 3M tape to hold these on. Peel those off and readjust your grub screws and positioning of the inner bush to get the clocking that you desire. How cool is that? And it still sounds really good despite being connected at the pommel. Obviously it's a little bit reduced, it has to be, but you can still hear it really nicely. How cool is that? Right. I think this is what everybody has been waiting for. There we go, like that. And then put it on silent mode. There's one thing about the SHOTO is let it sit on its side, otherwise if it rolls onto the buttons it's going to do something. And don't forget you've got your flats there for a screwdriver if you want to use a screwdriver to undo the whole mechanism you've done it up. Right, I hope I've covered everything with the SHOTO. I hope you found this useful, understood the installation process of the standard Eco and Eco CC chassis kits. And yes, I look forward to seeing you in the next video going over something to do with the Kestis kits. Thanks again guys, catch you later, bye.